It's Vanessa for Crafty Gemini Creates, and in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to make this super great scrap busting project. It's an earbud keeper. If you've ever gotten your earbuds tangled up and everything, you're going to know that something like this comes in really handy, and they can be kind of pricey. I'm going to show you how easy it is to use some scraps and to make one up yourself on the sewing machine. So the supplies you're going to need are some scrap fabric. In this case I'm using some 5" by 5" squares, and they are the collection that I'm using is called Zoe Lane by Camelot Fabrics, and I really like the colors on this. It's nice kind of geometric shapes and they're really cool and modern colors. So we're going to use some of that. The inside that's giving us kind of the foaminess and the thickness of the project is one of the products that I love to use. You guys know that. It's in our Form Plus, so we're going to use a chunk of that as well. And then some scissors, coordinating thread, and your sewing machine. For this project you are going to need some type of a zigzag stitch. So check your machine and see if you have that option available in your decorative stitches. So let's get started. First we're going to grab a 5" square of the In Our Form Plus, and as you can see here I've fused 2 squares to it, one on each side. So basically just pick out 2 coordinating fabrics, and I'm just going to show you quickly how we do it here. Let's do one like this. If you pick some more masculine colors and some fun fabrics, I think this would be a great holiday gift to make for a man or a guy in your life, something functional they can use. So we head over to the ironing board and just give it a quick press on one side. And then I just flip it over and do it on the other side. You don't want to hit the In Our Form Plus from one side with steam because it's double-sided fusible. I just hit it with a warm iron and it doesn't stick on the back side until I add my second piece of fabric, and then we'll just fuse that into place. Now to cut out our template pieces, we have a little template here, and remember that you can always click the link in the description box below and there'll be a PDF download there for you to download and print out your own template. So we're going to cut out 2 of these circles, and since our fabric is fused to both sides, it's already going to be, one is for the outer and the other for the lining. So if you place your template pieces close to the corners, you'll be able to cut out 2 from these 5" by 5" squares. So that's the idea, just hold it in place. And the circle's not that big, so you can get around it pretty quickly with a pair of scissors. And you're going to cut out 2 circles like this. It should have fabric on both sides, okay? The next step is what you see here. Notice, just to show you that I got both circles out of that one 5" square. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine. As you can see that this one's already been done, we're going to zigzag stitch all the way around all the corners. And so you're going to want to play around with your machine settings and see what zigzag will work for you, how close together you want the zigzag stitches, how long, things like that. But it's really simple. I'm going to tell you basically the settings that I have on this machine right now. I'm using a Baby Lock Catherine, and I've just set the stitches to a 1" stitch length, so they're going to be really close together. And then the width is a 4.5 or 4.0 would work nicely as well. Any zigzag stitch machine is going to work fine for this part because the foam is so airy that once you stitch through it, it's going to really condense. So don't worry if you don't have like a heavy duty machine, it'll still work fine for this. All right, so there we go. 1.0 stitch length, 4.5 zigzag. Now the idea with this part is that we're using the zigzag to finish off the raw edge. So what you want to do is line it up so that the needle comes into the fabric, and when it like zigs in and then it zags out, it's right on the edge, that raw edge of your fabric, and that way you're going to conceal those edges. Notice how I'm holding my hand. I'm just kind of rotating it nice and slowly. Since we are working with a full circle here, just take your time and go all the way around. And when you get back to the other side, you want to take some stitches over the first stitches you took so that it secures them in place. You can even back stitch if you want to. All right. So there's our little sample. Let me trim off these straight threads. And this is kind of like a really rugged, just quick scrap busting project that you can use immediately. So we have our 2 circles here. Now to one of them, we are going to cut 2 slits, and I'll show you what the slits are for. It's to catch the ends, right? The plug end and the earbud end of the earbuds. So I'm just going to do 2 slits, and they're going to be opposites of each other. And you're cutting into the center. You still want to have at least 1/2 to 3/4 inch in the center that hasn't been cut. So I would say the cut mark that I'm making is about 3/4 inch. You can see that. So notice I still have this big chunk here that hasn't been cut. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and with the straight stitch option now, I'm going to stitch really close to this raw edge just to keep that fabric from further fraying. And on this sample here, you can kind of see where the stitches go. I just pivot at the top and come back down. So let me show you how to do that. Select my straight stitch. And I always back stitch at the beginning and at the ends just to secure these threads. right, so now we have our top and our bottom. The one with the slits is gonna go, well, it doesn't really matter, top or bottom, but we have basically 1 and 1, okay? Now, we want to add some height to the center of these two to make it like a spool, so it'll give us something to wrap around. So this part is really, you just eyeball it. From the remaining chunks and scraps that you have from cutting out your circle templates, you can just cut out some squares. And I start off with squares at first. After we stitch them up, then we'll go back and trim them to make them a little bit more round so that the wires can go a little bit easier around the project. They don't have to be super perfect or match. You can see I'm just cutting out 4 little squares. You can do 3, you can do 4. Remember that when we stitch through the foam, it is going to compress. So we just stack them up just like that. I'm going to do a few stitches, a few zigzag stitches right down the middle, and then we'll come back and we're going to just clean this up with the scissors, just cut around the edges to round it off a little bit. So I'm going to put a zigzag on it, right in the center of the whole thing. And it's okay if they move around on you a little bit, you can just clean it up. It doesn't have to be really precise. I'm just going to backstitch. And you can see that those stitches go nicely right through all the layers of the foam. All right, so here you can see I just did some zigzag stitches back and front, right in the center of them. And now we're just going to clean this part up. So basically chop off the corners. Okay, doesn't have to be a perfect circle, just trim it up. That looks pretty good. And the idea is that we're now going to lay this in the center and we're going to stitch through all that so that it holds it in place. Now, if this is too much and you feel like your machine can't go through it, because remember, the foam really does compress itself, what I generally will do is place it on one where I can see exactly if it's kind of close to the center and do a few more zigzag stitches to basically baste it into place in that one. Then I know it won't move on me and I can go through and add the next one. So let's do that. And everything is just a few stitches. If you ever find that you have a sewing machine that won't go through it, feel free to do some hand stitches with a nice sturdy thread and that will hold it fine as well. That's it. Simple. All right. So now we're ready to add our one to the top. So basically decide which side of the fabric you want facing up. And I kind of like this one to switch it up. One of these and this more teal color on top. So now I'm going to center it as best as I can right here. And I'm just going to take a few stitches right in the middle. All right. So let's clean up any straight threads we have around here. And it's done. There you can see that we've added a little bit of height to the middle of the two discs. And now, start it off, put one end inside one of the slits, and then you can just start working your way around. Let me bring it up and through here. And then just start working your way around, winding it into place. And sometimes I just leave like an extra tail at the beginning and at the end so that I can kind of wind it and wrap it and make it as tight as I can. And both of them will fit into either slit on both sides. So there we go. We come around to the other end and it looks like I still have a little bit. So I bring it through one slit and I can even bring it through the other. So you see how that holds it in place there. And this one you can bring it and basically just pull them around the sides. The circle's not that big, so it holds really nicely. So I hope you all enjoyed this quickie tutorial, a great scrap busting project, and that you'll make some this holiday season for some of your friends and family members, and definitely for yourself. I know I definitely use mine. If you enjoyed the video tutorial, make sure to hit it with the thumbs up below, share it across the different social media sites, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of my future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.